Okay, so today's session we will be having two parts. Okay, so that's not a problem. Now I hope you are able to hear me. So what I'm trying to say here is we are going to use DML operations in order to handle the data manipulation. So data manipulation is the process of inserting, updating, and deleting the data. So this one 100% is every Azure data engineer or every data engineers are going to be doing this, especially when we are going to deal with the control tables or metadata tables. We can say metadata tables. As a data engineer, you have to feed it, you have to update it. So I'm just going to take you through this insert update, this DML operations. Let's see how we are going to do it. It is used to manipulate, it is a data manipulation language to apply DML operations. The following are the DML operations. Insert is used to insert the data into the table, and update is used to update the data in the table. I hope I started recording right. Let me check. Yeah. And delete is used to delete the data from the table. Select star from customer. If I execute it, it will say table is invalid. The name of the table is not existed. I wanted to create this table again back. All these columns I'm just taking. Customer ID, name, location, gender, and sales. So I'm going to have a name, that is fine. So here I'm just going to have a customer underscore name. And then customer location, gender, and sales. Okay, something like this, I have a table. Something like this, I have a table with 5 columns. So here also the same thing. If I execute this select star from table name, I don't have the data 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I wanted to feed the data into these tables. In order to feed the data into these tables, I'm going to use insert statement. Inserting a single record into the table. Inserting a single record into the table. So how we can insert a single record is we can directly keep insert into table name. This is the name of the table that you are going to specify, and what values you have to feed that we need to specify here. The values are going to be decided based on the list of columns in the table. Based on list of columns in the table. List of columns in the table. So the first column is customer ID. So I'm passing customer ID. And then the second column is customer name. The third column is location, gender, and sales. I'm passing the values for all columns. We are passing values for every column. Every column you're passing. So this kind of syntax is going to be there many times. Of course, there is a few more syntaxes. I'll talk about it. Feed a single record into the table for all columns. So especially this one is going to be like when you're trying to feed into the control tables, we are going to feed the entries for all the columns. You have to feed it. So in that case, we are going to use this statement. If you are not interested to pass a value for any specific column, how we can handle it, we'll see that. So at this point of time, I wanted to say how we can execute this particular statement by passing a values to all columns. Just execute it. And here one thing I wanted to say, strings will be enclosed in a single quote. In SQL, the strings will be enclosed in a single quote. And the second one is I'm trying to add a new column. I'm trying to add a new column. The new column is customer age. Just add a new column. Before adding a new column, I wanted to show the data for this record. So I'm going to take this and paste it here. My next requirement is I wanted to add a new column. That column name is customer age. I wanted to add this column. When you add a new column to the existed table, if the table is having the data, if the table is having the data, in this case, we already having 101. The data is available for this table. This is a new column. I'm going to add a new column. This is going to be a new column. So since it is a new column, what it is going to take a value for this is, it is going to take a null here. If at all, if you are having already existed data, if you have a existed data, when you are trying to feed the data into the, or when you're trying to add a new column, for added new columns is going to be taken as a nulls for all the existed data. If you don't have the data, then I don't have any problem. If you're already having a data in the table, if you're trying to add a new column, then for existed columns, for existed data, for new columns, it is going to take a null. So later, whatever the data is going to add after adding this column, for them only it is going to take a data. Otherwise, it is going to take a nulls. Now, let me show you how exactly it is going to be happen. Now, let's come to here, SQL. I'm trying to add a new column. We already know about how we can add a new column. Now, if you see select star from table name again, you can see there is a null here because it is a existed data. If there is a 10 rows in the table, for 10 rows, it is going to give a null. From now on, if you are going to feed any data, in that case, it is going to take a values. So now I'm just going to feed a single record, same. So I'm just trying to feed a single record only here for all the columns. So sometimes you just imagine my table is having 100 columns. My table is having 100 columns. I don't want to pass the values for 100 columns. I wanted to pass the values for only 10 columns. Then how you can pass it? I'll talk about it. Or my table is having only 10 columns. I don't want to pass the value for one column. I wanted to pass the values for 9 columns and one column not interested. So if that is the case, whatever the column you're not interested to pass the value, for that column you can pass null. Explicitly you can pass the null. Null can be allowed for numbers, null can be allowed for text, and null can be allowed for date also. That means if I wanted to pass a null for number column, I can pass the null. If I have a text column to pass the null, I can pass the null. So this is going to support any kind of data type. So insert into customer, I'm taking a 102 name, location, gender. Now I'm passing the gender also here. And of course, even in the previous session also I passed the gender. Cell is 1000 and I'm just going to pass age also here. This age is 30. This is the age column. If I don't pass it, if at all, if I don't pass this value, then it is going to fail. Just observe, if you want to check is that getting problem or not, I'm just taking this 30 out. No 30. I'm just trying to execute without age column value. It is going to be failed. That means number of columns number of columns in the table and supplied values in the insert statement is not in match. Your table is having how many columns? Your table is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 columns. But how many values are passing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number of columns in the table and supplied values in the insert statement is not matching. So what you have to do? You have to pass 30 here. So then if you pass 30, automatically the number of supplied values and number of columns are matching. So it is going to allow you to insert the record. I wanted to execute this select star from table name. You can see here. This record is loaded into this place. This record is loaded into that place and you can see that. And if I don't want to insert a value, if I don't want to insert a value for any specific column, in that case, you can pass null. You can see here. For 103, also I'm passing the values for all the columns. The difference here is I'm passing the values for few columns. This is the employee number, customer number, customer name, and sales. Then what about other columns? I'm taking, what are the columns are there? Okay, so here I'm having it. So I'm just passing 103 here. I'm just passing the name and location is null. Gender is null and 3000 is the sales and age also is null. So whatever the column I'm not interested to pass the value, then you can use null. You can pass the null. So that is what I'm just trying to do here. Just execute this statement. You're going to get the same result. Just say select star from table name again. You can find the result. Whatever I explained here, the same thing is available here. But the problem is here, if the table is having, as I said, if the table is having 100 columns, table is having 100 columns. But I wanted to feed data for only 3 columns. Then you have to write 97 times, you have to write nulls. Typing that many times is time wasting and that's not a best practice also. So what you can do is, for whatever the columns you wanted to add a values, those things you are going to specify right after the table name. You are going to specify the column names. You are going to specify the column names here, required column names. You are going to specify required column names. And when you are passing the values in the values, same to same. The only thing, rest of the thing is same. The only thing here is we are going to give the list of the columns. So when you are passing the values, you have to pass the values based on the required values. Values you have to pass based on required columns, required column list. That means here you have taken customer ID is the first column, then pass the value for customer ID. Next column is customer sales, then pass the value for customer sales. The next column is customer name, then pass the customer name. So like this, you have to pass the values based on these columns, based on the order of these columns. Now let me execute this so that you can get an idea. So we don't need to pass the explicitly, we don't need to pass the nulls. You can pass the values. I just pass the values for only 3 columns, rest of them automatically they got the nulls. So that is how you're going to insert it. So that is about how we can insert a single record. And the next is how we can insert a multiple records. how we can insert a multiple records, and basically in the real time we are going to use when you're feeding a data, we always going to specify the column names. This is the best practice. So when I prepared a insert statement, I used Excel to generate a insert statement dynamically. I used to feed the data into the Excel. It writes a SQL for me, and that SQL code I used to execute in the SQL when you have a many columns. Because in my table, in my control table, there was more than 150 columns. Okay, so because of that reason, I used to feed the data from the Excel. You can also do it directly from there. Once you know one statement, once you prepare one statement, you can copy and paste it and you can change the values accordingly. So it's all depends on the requirement you're going to do it. So if it is a multiple values, here I wanted to feed multiple rows. You can use multiple insert statement to insert multiple values, or you can use only one statement, one insert statement, and all these are going to be multiple statements with the comma separator. You're going to use a comma separator here. When you're passing the values, this values is based on the order of the columns. You can see it. Whatever the order I'm having, the same order you have to pass the values. Let's execute this one. Now you can see all the rows in the table. So we have seen how we can insert the data into the table. There is a one more requirement, bulk insert, or not like a bulk insert, like a copy a table from one table to another table. Copy a table from another table. Let's say I have a table one. I have a table one. This table one is having some records. Just imagine this table is having 10 records. My requirement is demanding to create a table or table 2. I wanted to create a table 2. This table 2, I wanted to take the data from the table 1. I wanted to copy data from here. I wanted to copy data from the table 1 to table 2. So since my table is having 10 records, I wanted to bring all the 10 records into the table 2 also. So here also you are going to get 10 records. So this kind of situation also we are going to do very frequently as a data engineer. Even in a Spark SQL also, you are going to do it. The similar kind of things, we are going to do it. Now what I'm trying to do here is, I wanted to create a one new table here because this is a table 2. Table 1 is a customer table and table 2 is a customer data. Let's execute it with the same columns. Customer data is already existed because I used it for someone else. So let me remove this table from here. Without writing a code, I can also remove the table with UI. Now I'm going to create a table again. It's an empty table. No data is available in the customer data, but whereas in the customer table, I have a data. This table is a table 1. This table is a table 1. And this table is a table 2. So I wanted to bring the data into this table. To bring this data into the table, how you can bring it? So we are going to use, to feed the data into this table, we are going to use the statement called same insert into. Insert into and select statement. So by using select statement, we can feed the data into the table. By using select statement, we are going to do it. So just observe how we are going to do it. I'm just trying to execute this select statement first. This select statement is going to get some data. This is a table 1 data. This table 1 data has to go to the table 2. To go to the table 2, what you have to do is you have to write a statement like insert into table name. And then here you need to specify the list of columns. You have to specify the list of columns here. When you write insert into table name, the new table name, make sure to specify the list of columns. Based on this list of columns, you need to prepare a select statement. You need to prepare a select statement based on this order of the columns which you are specifying. If you don't specify the order of the columns, then original order of the table list is there, right? I mean, original table column order is there, right? In the same order, you have to prepare this select statement. So when you prepare it, I always recommend to keep the list of columns here, and the same order of the columns should be there in the select statement. If the order is missed, then the statement is going to be failed. The statement is going to be failed. So to make it success, the order should be same. Then only we can feed the data into this table. So this kind of statement as a data engineers, we are going to do it in a Databricks frequently. In a Databricks, there is a more chances to do it. So just remember this. This is very important for us. Insert into table name. Let's execute this statement. If I execute this statement, it is going to feed the data into the table. It is going to feed the data into the table. Let's execute it. Now you can see here, select star from table name. Both the tables I'm just taking here. Both statements are there. So both tables are going to have the data here. Now this is a table 1. This part is a or table 2. That is customer data. And in the bottom table, that is table 1, that is customer table. So from customer to customer data, data is moved by using select statement. That means if you wanted to insert bulk records or multiple records, then we can use the select statement by using insert with select statement. Insert with select statement, we can feed multiple records in the table. Okay, so that is what I have given here. Feeding data into customer table. And how can you feed the data from one table to another table? By using insert into statement, we can feed data from one table to another table. So that we have seen. And the next is I'm having update. So update is going to modify the existed data. I have a data. I wanted to update it. For table, some data is there. I wanted to change this name. I wanted to change the location. So if you wanted to modify the existed data, then we are going to use update. Okay, this is also is very important for us because sometimes like at the time of testing, you can have some kind of values for validation. So once it is fixed, then you have to change, especially type of load you're going to modify in the control tables, and starting time, or we can say loading time. This kind of columns you're going to modify it. Okay, so filter columns, there is a chances to modify. So what all these things, I'll talk about it. You don't worry about this. When the time comes, I'm going to talk about it. So that time you feel the importance of the update statement. Update customer data table. I wanted to update it. Customer data is this table. This customer age is there, right? I wanted to update 100 for 101. For 101, here I'm having a null. There is no value here. So I wanted to get this 100. This 100 will come to this place. So it's not coming for all the records. It is coming for based on the condition. The condition I'm specifying, update it for only 101. Update it for only 101 I'm saying. So once I execute this statement, what happens is it is going to update only one record you can see here, and I'm going to execute this select statement and see the result. Now you can see this 100 here. Previously there was no 100, now we are having a 100 here. So that is how it is going to work. If I wanted to update multiple records, multiple columns for same single record, multiple columns, you can say update multiple columns. I wanted to update multiple columns with a single row. So single row means definitely there is a condition. That condition is returning only single row in this particular case. So here I'm having a condition. I'm going to talk about what is condition little more in detail. So here in the set, I'm taking customer age is 36 and customer sales is 5,000. For which record? For 102. 102, what is the customer age? Customer age is 30 is there. I wanted to make this 30 to 36. And sales, how much sales is there? The sales is having 1,000 here. Customer sales is having 1,000. So I wanted to make this as 5,000. I wanted to make this as a 5,000. So how you are going to do it? That's going to be possible by using update statement. As many columns as you want, you can update it with the comma separator. With comma separator, you can do it. As many columns as you want. So this kind of statements also we are going to do it frequently. Let's execute it. This updates is not going to do the actual data update. 100% is no. You are going to, as a data engineer, you are going to do only metadata updates only, not actual data. We are not supposed to do any change in the actual data. Keep in mind. And if you are not interested to pass the value for any column, you can pass the null. If you want to pass for all the values, updating a single column for multiple rows or all the rows. In this case, all the rows. This is very, very dangerous operation. This statement, updating without where clause. Okay, this is, we used to call it as a clause, a condition. We can also call this as a condition. Without condition, you're not supposed to update it. So when you're writing an update statement, keep in mind that you should have a where clause. You should be very careful. Because of that reason, people are not going to get the access. That means everyone is not going to get the access to update it. Even in my project, I have a access in the pre-prod, but I don't have a access in the prod to update it. I don't have access. If I wanted to update it, I have to reach out some others in the team, the person who is having access. Because sensitive operations will be handled by 1 or 2% only, not everyone. Okay, so because it is a dangerous operation. So in the prod, they don't give a DML operations. They don't give a DML operations in the prod. Never. Until unless you have a proper experience. Okay, so even I'm not getting a access to two changes in the production. Because if they give access for multiple persons, there will be a lot of issues. So two persons are there. One is from the DevOps team and other is from the same data engineering team. So that person is going to handle it. He is an architect and the architect is going to take care about in that particular case. If they give a permissions to me, everyone has to come to me to feed the data into the production. Okay, so it's all depends on the requirement. It is going to be happen. So when you write any update statements, keep in mind there should be where clause. Now I'm just going to execute this update statement without where clause. You can see here, All the gender columns are null now. That is a dangerous operation. And the next is I'm having delete. So delete is used to delete the data. We can delete a specific record or you can delete all the records from the table. Deleting all the records from the table is also dangerous operation. Delete from customer data. I wanted to delete only customer ID 101. This record I wanted to remove it. 101. Then you can use delete from table name. From where you wanted to delete, you have to specify as a table name. And then you are giving a condition here. This where clause, we have a more discussion along with the select statement. I'm going to talk about it. With the select statement, we are going to spend some time with the where clause so that you can understand this. This is very important even when you go for the data factory, and this is even important when you go for the Databricks. Wherever you are going to deal with the data, when you deal with the data, then definitely you should know about where clause, condition. The condition should be known. So here I'm just removing only one record here. Let's execute it. This particular statement, it is going to remove only one record. Delete it. If I say select star from table name, you cannot see there is a 101. 101 is removed. Now, if I wanted to remove all the data from the table, just simple, delete from the table. Let's execute it. No data is going to be available. This is dangerous operation. And if you want to drop the table, you can drop the table that we already seen. Okay. And there is a truncate also is there. Truncate is used to remove all the data at one set. Basically, comparatively, delete, truncate will be faster. Okay, so that thing I'm just going to talk about it later in the somewhere around. What is the difference between truncate and delete? I'll talk about it as an interview question. You're going to face that kind of question in the interview. So I'm going to talk in the interview series. Okay, so any question before stopping? Okay, then I'm going to stop here. We'll talk about the rest of the things and tomorrow. Thank you for joining.